And
here
again.
And again.
And again.
Okay, let me get myself together. Okay, I'm fine. Okay.
Positive energy. Positive vibes.
energy, yes. See me. Okay, I'm sorry. We're being silly.
All right.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about
Last night over coffee.
Oh, this is so good.
It is.
Such an amazing day to have coffee because it's
Yes.
just like a little cool outside, not
Yes.
super cold because we're in California. It never really gets super cold.
Bipolar weather in California.
Yes, bipolar weather.
We have 90 degrees someday, and then by the evening, and then in the morning it's like 45, and
Right.
just trying to get there. But it's always good time to have coffee and good company.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So last night we talked about commitment.
Oh my goodness.
It's a heavy load topic, and the fact is we learn to dig deep into what commitment is, what really means. It's not just to say yes and do it. It's not just to say yes. And why it's so hard to commit to things?
Why is it so hard to commit to things?
Yeah. So
sometimes we overcommit to things that we know we really have no intention of showing up for. So that's a whole nother level of commitment.
We talk about the lies you tell yourself.
Right.
Okay, so to catch on, go back to watch that one, and then you can commit.
You can catch up.
Yes. Don't quit lying to yourself.
Exactly.
But last night we got a lot of things.
A lot of things came out of that class
yes.
last night. It was
and
really
it was
good.
because we had a lot of participation and people really being open, and that's what helped us to do better and teach better is the openness and the willingness to work on your own issues.
Exactly.
Bring everything to the table. So last night we are always blessed with good company and openness and willingness.
Exactly.
But you open up talking about very profound stuff.
Commitment. Yeah. So obviously God's word is all about commitment, and so what I do is I bring the word and Lily brings the application. So the first couple of scriptures I brought were directly from the Old Testament, and I came from Psalms and I came from Proverbs, and they both start with commit. And it says Psalms 37:5 through 6, if you're writing this down. It says, commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will do this. It even tells you, once you commit, this is what he's going to do for you. He will make your righteous shine like the dawn, and the justice of your cause like the noonday sun. So the Bible I was explaining last night is made up of premises and promises. So the premise is, commit your way to the Lord. Then he even tells you, if you do this, I'll do that. So that's what the promise is. The promise is he will make your righteousness shine like the dawn, and the justice of your cause like the noonday sun. And then I went to Proverbs. I was in Psalms. I also went to Proverbs 16:3, which is very similar. It says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. And so I think the bottom line is, and what we really have to be honest with ourselves, is that the commitment to something greater than yourself has to be there first. In this case, God, the God of the Bible, is what we are committing to, what I commit to as a believer. And then everything else kind of falls into place. Going with that second Proverbs scripture, it says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. A lot of times we're trying to commit to things that the Lord had no intention for us to commit to, and we wonder why we're struggling to commit to things. And to be honest with you, there are some things that are just really hard to commit to. I would say marriage is a commitment. Marriage is a commitment. I'll say that again. And it is hard, but as evidenced by the fact that the divorce rate in the Christian community as well as the secular community is 50% or better. So that is a commitment that we stand up before a pastor or a preacher and all of our favorite friends and family, and we say these vows, till death do you part, I believe is always the last thing that everybody says, but then we don't commit. We're not listening to the commitment, we're not owning the commitment, and we're not pushing through with the commitment. So that's just one, area, but I mean, there's thousands of different areas where we have commitment to. And so then I kind of went from there to the New Testament.
Just I know that what you just said. I just want to say, when I got married, I wasn't as fluent in English.
Right. Oh, interesting.
So
you didn't know. You had an excuse.
So when they say just repeat the word
Right.
that I'm saying, I don't think I even said it right. So later on, I said, "What was I saying?" And they were like, they repeated back, and I was like, "Sure."
Oh my
Whatever.
goodness.
But
That
then
is so
later on, that's
interesting.
when it's like, oh, so that's what I commit to? Oh,
Right,
okay.
right. And it's so interesting. My husband and I teach a marriage class, and my husband was going through the whole marriage ceremony, like the traditional marriage ceremony, just really breaking it down to the finite level. And there was one young lady that said there, she said, wow, I've never really heard it like this before. And what I said to her is, most people don't hear it till they're standing on the altar. Yeah. That is the first time that they hear it. So you're saying these words that you have no idea what you're committing to. They say in sickness and in health, and for richer or for poorer, for better or for worse. But the problem is, usually when you get married, you're on the high side of all those. Yes. You're healthy, you're wealthy, and you're wise. Yes. I mean, so everything is flowing, everything is great. We look great. Everybody's, but we don't know how bad it can get. We don't know how sick we can get. I know somebody from, another lifetime that their wife left them because they got sick. They got diabetes, the leg got cut off, and they were so done.
And she's like,
I'm out. Peace out. That was part of that vow, sickness and in health. Richer or poorer, when you're, the money's flowing or your daddy's paid for the wedding and everything's like rolling, everything is great. We got these great jobs. What happens if somebody loses a job? Or somebody gets hurt, or somebody,
So when you get the ring, make sure that you go back and write the fine letters, the little tiny letters that come with the contract.
Right, exactly. All you guys that are married, go back and watch your wedding video.
Right? Yes.
So you make sure you know what you committed to. Yeah. That will cut down on the divorce rate. But anyway, so, but it's true. I mean, that's a huge commitment that people break all the time. Yeah. Then we talked about where I pulled a scripture from Luke. I'm not going to go through all the scriptures, but I pulled a scripture from Luke that said, remember Lot's wife. And if y'all don't know who Lot is or who his wife is, she was the one that turned to a pillar of salt. I think most people know that, but they don't know why she turned to a pillar of salt. And it's in Genesis 19, starting in the first chapter through verse 20, if you guys want to go back and look that up. But the problem was, it wasn't the act of looking back that got her, because I always felt like, wow, gosh, that's kind of hard, God. Like, why would you turn her into a pillar of salt? But she wasn't committed to moving forward because her heart wasn't there. Right. See, God is always looking at the heart. Mm-hmm. And so her heart wasn't there. And so the penalty was she got turned into a pillar of salt. So don't be Lot's wife. Yeah. Is what the bottom line is. And then the last thing we talked about, or one of the last things I talked about with regard to the scripture is why it's so hard to commit from a biblical perspective. And I went to the Romans chapter where it talks about, in Romans 7, 15 through 20, where it talks about, I do the things I don't want to do, and the things I don't want to do, I do. And if you read through that passage, it sounds like it's saying the same thing 4 times. But you get it. It's like, why do we do the things that we don't do, that we know we should do, and we don't, and we do the things that we know we shouldn't do? I was actually at what's that place called? Not Target, Trader Joe's, buying groceries, and I bought bacon. Sorry, guys, but for those of you guys that are not meat eaters, but the cashier and I were kind of joking, and he's like, "Wow, there's nothing better than bacon." And I said, I know. And I said, why is everything that's bad for you taste so good? And so we were kind of joking about that. And so then, but it's true. It's like, you shouldn't have it. I even told him, I said, yeah, I read an article where it says, like, if you eat a serving of bacon, it cuts off 30 minutes out of your life. And so then he says, well, if you have to go, that's a good way to go. I mean, it was just the craziest thing. We know we shouldn't be doing certain things. We talked about exercise or eating right or whatever. You shouldn't be doing certain things, or you should be doing certain things. But there is a spiritual issue, and the bottom line is, from that passage, it's the sin that lives in you. And so in order to learn how to commit better or be more committed to your commitments, you have to deal with the sin that is living in you. And we all have sin. You know what? The bestest person on the planet has sin, because the word says we were all born in sin. And so the sin that's living in you, I mean, you got to ask yourself, is it pride? Is it fear? Is it envy? Is it worry? Is it lust? Is it gluttony? That was like a rude awakening for me when I thought, oh, overeating is a sin. But but bacon tastes so good. But anyway, yeah, that's real. Lying, dishonesty, manipulation, codependency, lack of value, all those things have to be dealt with in order for you to make a real commitment and not make an excuse.
Right.
Because that's what we do. We'll make excuses. We'll lie to ourselves. Again, go back and watch that video. We'll lie to ourselves in order to keep from fulfilling the commitment that we know that we should be doing. So, there's a whole lot of biblical reasons why we should commit. But then I think what you talked about last night is why it's so hard to commit. And when you really went through that whole cycle of despair, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Anybody that's tried to lose weight or change an addiction or change a habit or whatever. Yeah,
brushing your teeth in the morning.
Brushing your teeth in the morning, that should be a given, but it's not for everybody. So
so and I got most of the lesson I got it from the book Life Healing Choices that we were teaching a couple of years back.
John Baker, great book.
Yes, and it talks, it's all about the 8 Beatitudes in the Bible, and it's 8 choices that we should be doing, and it's a process, right? So the third choice is letting go, and it's the commitment choice. When we finally admit that we are not capable to have it all together, it's not our power, we give everything, and then we commit to something better. But why is it so hard to commit to things that we really need to do? We are constantly looking for excuses and lies to make up for why we are not doing. We spend more time, money, effort, energy making up lies to support why we are not committing.
I love that.
And that's
You're
true.
right, because it does take a lot of energy to make up a lie. Because then you got to remember the lie, because then if it comes up again, you got to well, what did I say? It takes a lot of energy to do that. I think about Judge Judy. She always says, you don't have to have a good memory if you just tell the truth.
Exactly. You don't have to rely on your memory, but we spend so much time making up theories and lies of why I wasn't able to go to the party that I say yes in the first place. And there's people that journal lies. That was baffling. I read an article where there's people that write their lies so they can remember when people comes back to them. It's like, that is intense. It's like,
that takes a lot of work.
You're wasting paper in lies? What? Are you kidding me right now?
That reminds me of an episode on Everybody Loves Raymond. I don't know if you guys watch that show, but it was a great family show. But his wife paid all the bills. And she got frustrated because, it's so much work. And he's like, it's no work. I can do it, right? So then he totally messes up the checkbook. But then he creates a fake checkbook that balanced out. And so he's showing it to his friend. And the friend is like, you did all this work to do a fake one? Why didn't you just do the real one the right way?
What are you talking about?
That's what that reminds me of. You're writing down a lie. Why don't you just take the time to tell the truth and figure out and write down the truth? But
but that's what we do.
Yeah.
In life, sometimes we're driving and you're stressing over the lie that you're going to tell why you're late. Or why you're not going. Or what, and you're like, okay, what if they ask me this? And then you're already thinking ahead of time, what if they ask me for this? And then you're creating this elaborated story of a lie that you more than likely won't remember. So, and this is part of the cycle of despair. We talk about it. It's in the book as well. But it's a cycle that is really, really hard to get out of it, because it's part of who we are, becomes part of who we are. And what that means is it's something that we learned really early in life. I like to say this example, I got it from a book, The Big Leap. And basically it talks about, we learned early in life to wear a suit. We put on a suit. And this suit is not our own skin, but we wear it every single day. That becomes that we think that suit is who we are. But the moment that we understand the difference in between the suit and your own skin, you're capable to make better choices. When you make better choices, then you're capable to commit to those choices. But this cycle of despair starts with guilt. It starts with a guilt or pride or fear or worry or doubt. Those are obstacles that prevent commitment. So it starts there. You feel guilty about a situation, or you are not willing to say the truth, which is pride, or you to worry about what people are going to think. And so that creates a behavior, right? with time, that behavior, the fact that you're not capable to change that, gets us angry.
Right.
I'm not capable to change the guilt that I feel, or the situation that I'm going through, so I become angry about it. And this negative energy, or the anger, because we are not capable to deal with that, turns into fear. What if it doesn't change? What if these things is always going to be like that? What if and it becomes a fear. That fear prevents us from moving forward, and because we are covering fear, it turns into depression.
Right.
And then this depression turns into guilt. I should be able to do it on my own. I should be able to do this. Or I'm a grown-ass woman, and I've been reading books, and I should be doing, I should be able. And then you put all this pressure on you, which is cause of depression. But then the depression takes you into guilt. And then guilt into fear. And then then
it's a cycle.
It's a constant cycle.
Yeah, I do see that a lot in a lot of the couples that we counsel.
Yeah.
Like, we should be in a certain place, or even some, especially single women. We get to a certain age and we haven't achieved or accomplished or got that husband or got those kids or whatever, and it's like, but I should be. And then it just makes you more depressed, because you're not getting younger, you're getting older. So every day it ticks by and you're getting older, the clock is tick, tick, tick. You feel like a failure, because you just keep doing the cycle over and over and over again.
And that happens a lot with the women that got married later in life, and they were not able to have kids. And that becomes like, oh, but I should be able to do that. And why I didn't think about this when I was 20 years old. And then you feel guilty about it. And then you are angry about it, which reflects in your relationships. And then your fear, I have the fear that my husband is going to leave me because I'm angry all the time and I don't know what to do with this. And then depression, in which I don't want to go out. I don't want to hang out with nobody because I'm afraid of whatever I cannot change, and you put it on yourself, and then the cycle. It is just a vicious cycle. And the problem with this cycle, it's not the cycle on its own. The problem is that we are wearing that suit, and we don't know that suit becomes invisible to us. So we think that suit is our own skin, and we're not capable to see the difference in between what the cycle is and the suit, what the skin is. And that's the scary part. Not to be able to see the difference in between your own skin, your identity, who you really are, and your gifts, and the suit that you put on as a protection mechanism earlier in life. And that's natural. We all do that. We all go through that. But here is the learning experience. We gotta learn to understand who we really are, who God brought us to be, in order to identify the difference in between the suit and the skin. And then once with that as a foundation, we are able to make better choices based on what we really need. And when you see those things, when you find out what you really need, then you see the real need for you to commit to that thing. Basically, you get your body, your mind, and your spirit all in one, saying, yes, I got it. Let's jump on it. Let's do it. That's when we commit, and that's when we are capable to stay consistent and really do it. But commitment is pretty much identifying what is stopping us. And that's what we talk about, the obstacles of commitment. And those are, the book Signs calls out 5 of them. But what you mentioned, you talk about pride, fear, envy, worry, lust, gluttony, dishonesty, codependency, lack of value. Those are pretty much and it all's wrapped up into the same suit.
That's true.
So
is that, though, when you were saying that last night, is that kind of like the masks we wear? Because that kind of reminded me of when we did that lesson about them. We put on a mask. And we wear it so much, we begin to think that that's what we really are.
And that's the suit. The mask, the book that I was mentioning, it talks about a suit, but we talk about the masks. It's a mask that we put on and we wear it every single day. It's a makeup. The makeup that to cover those things that we don't want to look at because they're too ugly to look at. The cycle of despair. So when you take that mask off, you look at yourself as that cycle, and you're like, oh, let me just put it back on because I don't. It's too hard to look at it.
It's too much.
So last night we talked about the 5 obstacles: pride, guilt, fear, worry, and doubt. Those
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that the book mentions, Life Healing Choices book. So let's talk about pride.
Mm.
A self-sufficient fool falls flat on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to put emphasis
That's
on this.
powerful.
Happy are the meek. We talk
Right.
about the difference in between being meek
Yes.
and between being weak.
Weak.
Meek
Yes.
and weak are two different things.
Yes.
Being meek, it's a strength under control.
Yes.
What that means is a person that is a meek person will be way stronger than a weak person. And what that means is it's not the same. Weakness is allowing the fears, the worries, and all that to take over.
Right.
And meek is saying, being honest and saying, you know what? I realize that I don't have it all together.
Right.
So pride is letting go of the control, letting go, being meek, being honest with yourself. Pride is it's something that prevents us from moving forward because I'm not willing to let someone to be myself vulnerable and let someone look at what really I am, because I have shame, because I have all that stuff. So my self-esteem is so low that I don't want someone to look at it.
Right.
So I cover myself on pride, and meekness is just essentially dropping off the control and saying, you know what, I don't have it all figured out.
Right.
Help me, please. But that comes with honesty. So if you're not honest about your own situation, like I said, talking about the cycle, if you're not willing to being honest of what is troubling you, you won't ever be able to get out of that cycle of despair. Because step takes a lot of strength to say, you know what, I'm just making mistakes and more very poor choices. And it takes a lot of strength to do this. So pride is one of the main ones.
And that's the biggest one. And you know, God talks about pride in the word. He says, pride comes before destruction. And most people say pride comes before a fall. But if you read the scripture, it actually says pride comes before destruction and a haughty look before a fall.
Yeah.
So I think that is if you interpret it the way the word says it, your pride is going to destroy you.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Yes. Yeah. And it will. It's just because you're not being honest.
Right.
You're not willing to be vulnerable.
Right.
And if you're not willing to be vulnerable, you're not willing to be open to receive, to let go of that stuff, to open your heart and let go of all that anger and resentment and all that stuff, and make room for brand new things to come in.
That's it.
So
that's it.
Pride can kill us. We also talk about guilt. And I said this last night. When sometimes we carry guilt, somebody else's guilt on us.
Absolutely.
When we went to traumatic experiences, or when we were abused, or something happened to us, someone did something to us growing up.
Yes.
We learn to codependency, that's one, and we learn to take their guilt for the things that they did to us and putting it in ourselves.
Yes.
So basically, we grow up ashamed of the things that happened to us because it's too much to recognize that, oh, they came and did that to me. So their guilt, we adopt the guilt and we put it on us. We project the guilt into us and we carry it. So it's important that we understand that what happened to us is not our fault.
Right.
And whatever they did to us, it's not because that something that you could have prevented. And that's what we carry.
I think women do this a lot. You mentioned codependency, and you said something last night. You said, if I don't do it, who will? And I just kind of joked. I said, that's the codependence mantra. Because it is true. We feel like no one else will do it, so we've got to do it. But what you were also saying about how we take on other people's guilt and shame and problems or whatever. And I think women will do that a lot. Yeah. Because we take ownership for everything that's ours.
Right.
You know, it's our kids until they mess up, then they're your kids. But if they're our kids, it's our husband, it's our home, it's our car or my car, you know, it's mine. So if anything goes wrong with that, my husband, my kids, my car, my house, my whatever, we immediately take ownership for that.
We mesh our identity with the people around us identity.
Right.
What that means is what they do, we put it on us because we don't know who we really are.
Right.
We don't know the difference, and we talk about it. Someone mentioned this last night. I'm the mom, I'm the worker, I'm the executive, I'm the those are labels that we put on ourselves. That's not you.
That's not you.
And the work comes from understanding what your real gifts are, who you really are, who Lily is, who Julie really is.
Right.
It's not, I'm the professional, I'm this. No, those are titles that you earn. Those are badges that you earn with life and experience. But that's not who you are. It's important that we understand who we really are, because then if your husband messed up, then it's like, it's my fault.
You take ownership for that. Yeah.
I didn't do
it must
this.
Be something I'm not doing.
I should have done this. I should have done that better. I should have. If your kid gets in trouble, that's my fault.
Right.
We mesh identities because they're my kids. If it's me, no. Everybody makes mistakes, but that doesn't mean you don't have to take ownership for somebody else's mistake, but just your own. And these choices and decisions and commitment that we're talking about, it's all on you.
That's it. My grandmother taught me that years ago, and I really think that's why she lived so long. She lived to be 103, but I remember her telling me this, and I don't even know why she was sharing this with me, but she said, Julie, and she had 8 kids. So she said, you raise your kids and you do the best you can, and then you let them go.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was such wisdom, and I really do think that's why she lived to be 103, because she didn't worry about it. And her kids weren't perfect. My dad was one of them, and he certainly wasn't perfect, and neither am I. But it's like she didn't own the mistakes of her children.
Yeah.
And they made a lot of mistakes,
But own your own mistakes.
Yeah.
Own your own choices. This is different. If you make a decision for yourself, then you gotta own it.
Right there.
If someone makes a choice, that's on them. God won't hold us accountable for whatever your kids or your husband and other people is doing, but just your own.
Correct.
This is just about looking at yourself in the mirror, in your own skin.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another
one is fear. We are afraid to trust for the things that we don't know. I'm afraid. We have a past. We have a story, right? We have all this stuff going on, and the thing that we do is we judge the future based on the past.
Absolutely.
We make choices right now based on the past, and this is one of the biggest mistakes. We learn to be to have fears. We learn that very well based on traumatic experiences. That's natural.
Right.
We learn how to protect ourselves. What we don't learn is the outcome of those mistakes and issues and all that stuff, traumatic experience. We don't learn we don't have a learning experience. We don't learn the lesson. That's a mistake. So moving forward, we are so afraid to commit based on the decisions that we made in the past, but we never stop and say, wait a minute, what did I learn from it?
Right. Yeah.
What is the lesson from it? We are so focused on the problems that we don't learn the solutions.
That's real.
Moving forward, and this is something that I always say, we gotta learn. It's not for you. I'm not saying, well, stop being in fear. I'm not saying that. I'm saying learn what you really fear, so you can look at it in the eye and say, I know that you're there. I know that you're present. I know that I'm afraid of this, X, Y, and Z, but you won't stop me.
Right.
Because now I know the lesson behind it.
Right.
And that's the thing that we don't do. We learn the mistake on its own, but we don't learn the lesson that brought with it.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest things. We are so afraid to jump and commit based on our past.
Right.
But we carry our past with us all the time.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not necessarily your past. It could be like what you saw growing up. I know a lot of people that don't want to get married because of what they saw in their parents' home.
Yes.
And they'd say, I don't want to end up like my mom. I don't want to end up like my dad. Or I don't want to be like my parents' marriage. Or I don't want that, And so that fear alone will stop you. And you may be with the perfect partner, but you're so afraid of ending up like your parents that you won't take a step forward to commit to something that's new.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, when you don't learn about yourself moving forward,
oh my goodness,
you will find yourself making the same mistakes that your parents did. just because you're not learning from it.
Mhm.
See, we are so caught up into the cycle
Right.
that we are not capable to identify the mask or the suit, whatever it is, that we will fall into the same cycle
Yeah,
over and
absolutely.
over and over
Absolutely.
again, just because we don't identify the key component of that cycle, the main issue, the essence of that soup,
Right.
which is you, really the foundation of who you are and your fears. So commitment starts with self-awareness.
Yes.
That's the beginning of it. And fear, I mean,
That's deep.
the underlying fear becomes invisible because we have been practicing for so long, we've been afraid for so long, that it becomes normal. It becomes a
Right.
normal part of our life.
Right.
So you don't really identify it. You see it as, no, I don't want to get married because I want my freedom, or I want this, or you
Right.
start
Yeah.
creating
Yeah.
elaborating excuses without really identifying the bottom line of that issue.
And start justifying those excuses.
Yes.
Yeah, instead of identifying what the
Yes.
problem is. Yeah, and that's very dangerous.
Oh,
It's
yes.
very dangerous because not taking accountability for your own actions, responsibilities, behaviors, whatever, it's always about them. It's what you did. It's what he did. It's
Yeah.
what she did. It's what they did. But there's never any ownership here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got to learn to, problems or circumstances are there to teach us a lesson. The problem is that we are running away from problems instead of understanding the lesson that they're bringing to us. So when we are willing to learn from problems, we are learning to embrace them and say, oh, okay, so this problem happened. What am I learning from it?
Right.
But because we are fear of it, we running away from it. When we face it first, we are able to juice it out,
right,
to take advantage of it instead of it taking advantage of us.
Correct.
So
that's
learn to take advantage of your fears. Not don't let your fears take advantage of you.
Right. That's funny. I was looking at a what do you call it? One of those shorts by Ed Milet. And it was entitled "Face Your Fears," and then he says, "Would you do this?" And so they showed these guys that are skydiving from a hot air balloon, but they're on top of the balloon. You know, they're not in the little basket. They're on top of it and sliding down, and they jump. You know, and then they got their little parachute or whatever. He's like, "Would you do this?" I'm like, "No, that's a fear I don't have to face. I think I can die happy without having to face that fear. You know,
I don't have to take it that far.
I don't have to take that one.
Yeah, you don't have to take it that far. Yes.
I like
start with the fears.
Extreme fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So start with the ones at home.
Yeah.
We also talk about worry. Worry causes us to confuse decision-making process for a problem-solving one. So this is very key. Worry causes us to confuse decision-making for problem-solving.
Right.
So we go through life in problem-solving mode instead of decision-making. I'm always trying to solve problems instead of making a decision. What that means is we see everything as an obstacle, as a problem,
yes,
instead of as an opportunity.
Right. That's
So
very good.
We need to learn to see problems and obstacles as an opportunity for us to grow.
Right.
Because that will help us discover ourselves.
That is good. It is perspective. It's how you look at it.
Oh, yes, perspective.
It could be a problem or it could be an opportunity for growth.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's huge. That makes a huge difference.
Yes. And then doubt. What if? What if? All those what ifs that are in there. So that's where doubt is. But I was gonna say, I read something and I was gonna say perspective, because you mentioned perspective. Right. Perspective is like a cup of fresh water when you are thirsty. It helped you clear out when you're just think about it this way. When you're thirsty, when you're like workout or you're like a hot day and you have a cup of water, you feel like we do this like, and it feels so good. That's what perspective does, because it allows you to say, oh, I'm not the only one stuck in this junk.
Right.
Oh, I'm not the only one with this problem. Right. Oh, there's people that has different type of problems, but in the same scenario. Right. So it's kind of like, So perspective, go search for perspective. What that means is stay in community, be honest about your issues, open up about it, so someone can bring their perspective, and you can be like,
Or
That's
like
what
a
it is.
cup of warm coffee on a cold day. Ah.
There you go. That's a different perspective. There you go. Yeah, so doubt, it's all about what ifs.
Mhm.
Doubt is that thing that tells you, oh, but what if this happens? Oh, but what if? What if I meet someone else? What if I fall in love with someone else? What if now falling in love, we talk about that love, it's that romantical thing that you say, it's not valid.
Right.
So committing is love. That it
Mhm.
is. Committing, it's when you commit, and we're going to
Right.
talk, well, we talk about it, honoring yes and no. When you honor your
Yes.
yes and when you
Yes.
honor
Oh,
your
right.
no's,
We talked
it's
about that.
showing
Yes.
love to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Setting boundaries is a proof of love. When
Right.
you set boundaries with yourself, when you, like,
Mhm.
for example, you tell yourself, I told myself that I wanted to lose 20 pounds to bring my heart, blood pressure, whatever,
Right.
low.
Yes.
And I made that promise to myself and I committed to that.
Right.
And then when you're about to eat that donut and you're like, and that's basically putting it down, or just taking
Yeah.
one bite and not
Mhm.
eating the whole box.
Right.
Is setting a boundary. That's a
Yes.
boundary right there.
Right.
And that's just a proof of self-love.
Mhm. And you were saying about let your yes be yes. That does come from Matthew. It's actually in 2 places in the Bible. Might be more, but the one I pulled was from Matthew 5:37. It says, "Simply let your yes be yes and your no be no." And then he goes on to say, "Anything beyond this comes from the evil one." Those are Jesus's words.
Yes.
So if you're not telling the truth, or if you're saying yes to something where in your heart is no, like Lot's wife, yes, we'll move forward, but she longed back. Her heart was still back in Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
That's from Satan,
Yes.
the evil one.
Yes.
In case you didn't know, that's who that is.
There you go. Let's make it straight.
Make it
This
clear.
is what it is.
You're partnering with
Yes.
the devil.
Yes. Yes.
When
So
your
you
yes
gotta-
is not your yes,
Yes.
and your no is not your no.
So yes, so you gotta commit to things that you really want to do because you really want to do them.
Mhm.
And you have to say, if you say no because it doesn't align with your needs of what the things that you really want to do, honor it.
Right.
Say, you know what, this is not for me.
Right.
I appreciate you inviting me. Thank you for thinking of
Mhm.
me, but it's
Mhm.
just not for me.
Right.
I pass.
Right.
And that's
Right.
honoring yourself.
Yes.
That's key. So commitment is a choice. Commitment is a choice that we make, and we have to make it. Sometimes we have to make it every single day to create habits.
That's deep. I was just thinking when you said it is a choice. It is a choice, because a lot of times you hear people say, well, I have to do.
No.
I have to do. That's like when you have to do. I'm learning.
That's not honoring.
I'm learning in Spanish. Tenemos que. We have to. We have to do. It's like it's taking your choice away.
Yeah.
And see, the commitment is the commitment from the heart.
Right.
So you can commit to doing some things. If it's not in your heart, it's really not a commitment.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
When you go like, well, I have to go because I already say yes.
Right.
Because I'm committed.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you already promise, you should stick with your promises, but that would teach you that don't make promises that you don't want to commit to it, because then you're not honoring yourself.
Right. And then you're going to be mad doing it. I think that came up a few weeks ago in another one of our meetings where a sister was being asked to drive a friend around that was from out of town, and she didn't have time and whatever. But it's like, and then she's trying to like negotiate with this friend. Well, why don't you do this? Well, no, you're the only one that can help me. And so you do it. I can't remember if she did it or not, but I think she said she didn't. But a lot of times we do that, and we'll do it. We'll feel backed up into a corner where we have to.
Yeah.
That's not a commitment.
No. And that's
just because you
yourself.
did it, that you weren't committed to doing
Right.
it. You did it begrudgingly.
Yeah.
And your heart's not in it. So
Right.
then you walk around with this, poor me victim mentality. Like
Cut it out.
Like you didn't have control. Yeah. Cut it out.
Cut it out. Yeah.
Stop
you
it.
made the decision. Either if you make a decision, you commit to it.
Right.
And you commit with a smile on it.
Right.
That's it. Understanding and clarity are the first step to making better choices.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to commit.
Right.
So when you have a clear understanding of the things that you want and who you are, and they align, when you're clear on your values and the things
Right.
that you want to pursue in life,
Mm-hmm.
that's the step number one, so you can make better choices. And then when you make better choices, you're able to fully commit to it,
Yes.
honoring yourself.
Right.
So we have to get our mind, body, and soul
Mm-hmm.
in it to be able to commit.
And then I think I just want to go back to that one scripture about your yes be yes and your no be no. If your no is no, own that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes we'll say no and feel guilty about
Yeah.
it. Going back to the guilt you talked about, right after pride, it was guilt. It's like, just own your no. If you don't want to do it, just say no.
Yep.
You don't have to give them a reason. You don't even have to have a good reason. If you just don't feel like it, I don't feel like it, so the answer is no. But we deal with so much guilt around that, and I think that's the point of the scripture. If your yes is yes, then own your yes. If your no is no, then own your no and move on.
Yep.
Yeah, just thought about that. It's a choice.
Yes. And God doesn't want you to be weak, but he does ask you to lay down your pride and be meek.
Yes.
To be strong in your control strength.
Strength under control.
Yes. Strength under control. What it means is honoring your yes and your no. If you say no, being meek is saying no because I cannot do it.
Right.
And I'm not gonna go run in circles to make it a yes.
Right.
You cannot do that. You're not honoring yourself. So God doesn't want you to go and pull your hair and to be stressed and to make things happen. That's not what he wants. He wants you to be honest and say, you know what, I can't, and I gotta honor it. Period.
Right.
And that's where the beginning of commitment. Learn to commit. You first need to learn about yourself. What's really what you want and what you find, what your values are.
Right.
And then from there you will be able, that will be the foundation to say what is yes and what is no. And once you identify what is yes and what is no, then you commit to them.
Right.
But it comes with self-evaluation, self-awareness, and a lot of practice. Practice, a constant practice every single day. We gotta commit to that practice. Commit to yourself first.
Absolutely.
Before you commit to other people. But I mean, commitment is a big deal.
Right.
And it all starts from you. When you start with it, then it ripples positively in your environment.
Right.
And you're teaching your kids to commit too.
Oh my goodness. Talking about teaching your kids. Yes. I just remember there was somebody we were counseling, and the wife was taking her kids somewhere to practice or something. They had to pick up another little kid, and they were running late. And so she tells her kid, oh, well, call whatever the child's name is. Call Johnny and say, this is why we're late. No. And then the little kid is like,
that's not true.
But mommy, that would be a lie. See, sometimes your kids will call you out, but then we give them permission to lie because we're teaching them.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's just a little white lie. It's all lie. Yeah.
Yes. And then you're like, why you lying? Boy, why you lying to me?
Right. And then we're like all tripping when they start lying to us. It's like, okay, learned it from you. So it's the things that, you got to be careful what you teach your kids, either tacitly or verbally, because you mentioned last night about a sponge. Kids are like little sponges, and they just soak it all up. And then when they get old enough, they kind of decipher what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And they filter it out. But the assignment that you gave us last night was really powerful. You had us to do 5 steps. No, there were 6 steps, of things that you wanted us to focus on and write down. And I haven't done mine. I'm owning that. I haven't done it, but I will. I do plan to do it this week because it was very thought-provoking, and I didn't just want to write an answer and be like, okay, I'm not committed to that. But you were asking us to list out the things that you want. And you kept mentioning you're probably going to have 1,000 things or 100 things or 10 things even. And you said you probably won't even get past 10. Probably won't even get past 3.
No.
Because when you start looking at the commitment that it takes to get there, I'm just thinking about 1. I'm like, let me just be very
conscious
of what I'm really willing to commit to, because it's nice to want. And I think the good thing about the exercise is that whatever you're willing to commit to do is what you really want.
Yes, that's what it is.
That's really what it is.
That's why step number 1, I want you to list all the things that you want. All of them. If it's like, and it goes from different ranges. It can go from I want to be more honest, from I want to be more honest to I want brand new car.
Right. Yes.
Everything you want in your life, you have to put it in there. Like I said, everything is valid, and 150 things are going to come up.
Right.
But then the step number 2 is then we have to attach to those things that we want. We have to attach an emotion. What that means is how would it make us feel to achieve this very thing? So
Yeah.
having a brand new car will help me feel that I have the position that I've been searching for all this time in business.
Right.
Great. That's
Yeah.
great. If that's something. So attach an emotion to all those things.
Right.
But then step number 3,
Mm-hmm.
now that you have 150 things to do, all the things with the emotion,
Right.
which I'm pretty sure if you have 100 things, you won't make it to 10 to get that emotion, because it's a lot of work. It's like, do I really care about this? Okay,
yeah,
scratch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the step number 3 is when you prioritize on that list. If you have 10 things, then put what's number 1 priority, what's number 2 priority. Well, I want my kids is priority, my family is priority number 1, or my job is priority number 2. So then you prioritize. That's a step number 3, because we need to be fully aware of what we really see value on. And that's really an introspection for self-awareness.
Right.
This is just all about self-awareness.
Right.
And then step number 4, then you see what are the obstacles that will prevent me from achieving these priorities.
Right.
Now that you have these 10 priorities in your life, and now you know how they make you feel achieving those things, and now that you have it prioritized, what will prevent me from achieving it? See, you see the pros and the cons. Now you're able to see them both in the same. Oh, okay, this is what. Now you know what you're shooting for.
Right.
So, getting my new. There's people. A lot of people brings houses to the goals, and I mean it's one of my goals too.
Yeah.
But I see it more as a goal, not as a priority.
Sure.
That different thing. So. I want to have a house because that will make me feel accomplished, right?
Right.
And then that's priority number 2, let's say. Now, what will be an obstacle? But that I don't have the credit to the credit score to get, or I don't have the finances in order, or I don't know. What will be the obstacles to do that? Because now when you see your priorities and you see what's preventing you from doing it, you can work on that. It gives you a direction. Okay, where can I go to achieve? What do I have to do? And what I have to jump through to get to where I want to do. That's step number 4. And then the 5, you're able to compare the pros and the cons. And now with that comparison, you can say, yes, I want to commit to this. I want to know this. No, yes, this. No, yes. And then when you make the decision of the things that you want to commit or not, you can drop all the rest of the things and honor your no's. These are all my no's. I will honor my no's. These are all my yes. I will honor my yes.
Right. That's powerful.
It's a great self-awareness.
And that takes work, though.
Oh,
and a lot of people, especially, in this microwave society, yes, I'll say it, we want everything in an instant. We want everything now. And that takes a lot of thought process to go through that process to actually commit and see where we want to do. Most people want to do. We just want to jump to the commit.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to commit to doing and losing 50 pounds in the next 6 months. Okay, no, you're not.
No, and I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours.
7 days a week, every day. Yeah. No, in your brain it sounds good, but
in practice it won't happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
So if you go through this process of doing these 5 steps before you commit, you really are going to see truly what you are committed to doing. What are you willing to sacrifice? Okay, let's say you do want to lose that 50 pounds. Are you willing to take the first steps and do that and do it consistently and not go hard, like you said, go hard for 2 hours for the first 2 days and then be like, okay, I'm done.
I'm too sore to continue
hard.
doing
I'm never
it.
going to do this again. I'm sore. It hurts.
Yes. I tried this diet for a week and it didn't work out.
It didn't work. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So committing comes with expectations. Now that we see the obstacles, it's important that we see the obstacles because then we can lower our expectations. So if you want to lose 15 pounds, you need to understand there's a lot of math that comes with it.
There you go.
Because it takes 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound.
Right.
So there's a lot of commitment that needs to be on board for that.
Right.
But if you really want to lose 15 pounds because you really need it, then it's totally worth to put the work on.
Absolutely.
But lower your expectations. You're not going to lose 15 pounds. Those quick fixes that they offer, lose 20 pounds in 1 month. That's not real. No. That's not real because you're going to gain it back.
You're not developing habits. You got to develop habits to keep it consistent.
Little by little. Baby steps. Baby steps.
Yeah.
So that's and that would take you to commit and to stay consistent.
No,
so
this was good. It was a great meeting. And I think, again, it really, it was very thought provoking because we had a lot of conversation after the fact, after you finished your lesson, and which is good because this is all about you in the audience, you 5 people or 10 people now that are watching us. It's about you. We do this because we love the Lord and we love you and we want to see you do well. But take the advice, take those 5 steps, and think about what is it that you're really committed to. And again, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And don't beat yourself up about it if the answer is no.
Right.
Because sometimes being true to yourself, you have to disappoint some other people. You may disappoint some other people. But, if you're not whole and you're not healthy, then all you're doing is disappointing yourself.
And now don't use this lesson to say, oh no, I'm committing to my task and that's why I cannot come to the ripple effect.
Forget about everything else.
Do not lie to yourself, because I can hear you thinking that.
Yes,
it's like, no, I have work to do, so I cannot come to the meeting because I check it out online. Well, let me tell you something.
For you.
Do not lie to yourself.
And it's so much better in person.
Yeah, and it's about community. So this is all about community. So if you're running away from responsibilities and to look at yourself in the mirror, then you're not committing to yourself.
Right.
You're just running away. And let's make it clear.
Mm-hmm.
That's weakness. That's not meekness.
Exactly. So we want you to commit. Commit to watching this video. Go back and watch some of the other ones because they all really kind of tie in together. If you notice, we reference a lot of the previous ones. They all do tie in together. And, let's get healthy this year.
Yes. And next one, someone brought it up.
This is going to be a good one.
The next one, the name is, let me just find it out. Oh, there. Abandonment triggers.
Notes.
Good job. Abandonment triggers and wounds. There's a lot of us that suffer through, abandonment, separation anxiety. We have these troubles that growing up that people just put us on the side, and we suffer abandonment, and I suffer from that. But one of the ladies brought this topic on board, and I was like, absolutely, abandonment triggers and wounds.
And you said something that I was just gonna say. Abandonment does not necessarily mean you grew up with no parents.
Oh, yes, for sure. You can be with your parents and still feel abandoned.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking about that.
That's going to be great. So you don't want to miss that one. We love you guys. This has been awesome. High five.
Yes.
Thank you, Lily.
We did it. We did it.
We're doing the Money Man sitting down.
All right. See you guys later.
Next time. Peace out.